welcome back to our third hour. Thom Hartmann here with you. And I'm super pleased to have in the studio with me the board chair of Our Revolution, the board chair of the Democracy Initiative, the past president of the Communication Workers of America, the vice chair of the new DNC Unity Committee, Larry Cohen. Larry, welcome back.
Pleasure. Great
having you with us. So we used to have theme music for Taking Our Country Back before we, when we started simulcasting on TV, we couldn't do the, but this is our, we're taking our country back. Okay, this is our Taking Our Country Back segment. How are we taking our country back? What are our best chances?
Many paths, Brother Thom, many paths.
Okay.
So over the weekend, new leadership in the Democratic Party in Wyoming. Yes, there is a Democratic Party there. Yeah. And Our Revolution has about 10,000 people in Wyoming, and they worked county by county, and lots of other people. And the chair and vice chair that were there, decent enough people, but different political orientation. They're replaced by two new folks. So, you know, it's 3,143 counties. I like to memorize that number. And we got to be in all of them to take our country back.
Right.
Not just in giant cities or other kinds of so-called liberal enclaves.
How many of those 3,000 counties has a Democratic Party chairperson?
That's a good question. Next time I'm here, I will have a real answer for you. Most of them do, but many don't. And when you go to the precinct level, gigantic number of vacancies. In a place like Wyoming, probably on the county level, probably a third have no functioning party.
Wow.
There's 26 counties, I would say probably 8 or 9.
Wow.
Not much there.
We've got, number one, a lot of work to do, but number two, amazing opportunity.
Yeah. And some of these counties, when I was in Wisconsin over the weekend, people would say to you, Thom, we'd rather run as independents where we live. People like rural Wisconsin.
Because
there's not much Democratic Party, and the voters we need don't like it.
Oh, really?
So we have to. I did a lot of listening. Yeah, folks like Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
You know,
but
a lot of people are fed up, but they're not necessarily going to vote with the Democratic Party. They see it as some kind of Eastern, Western, West Coast elitist thing. I mean, I have to learn a lot more about that. But definitely in Wyoming, a similar kind of thing. State legislative elections, the majority of the Republicans run unopposed.
Yeah. Well, you know, a lot of that. I mean, number one, certainly there's a lot of truth to the urban yuppie Democrat, you know,
corporate,
corporate Democrat kind of thing. But there's also, you know, that stereotype has been used by Republicans in particular to beat up Democrats forever. I mean, we need to be pushing back on that by saying, you know, we can reform the Democratic Party and make it, you know, take it back to FDR and LBJ and make it a party of the people.
Yeah, county by county, and the race coming up in May, a special election on a Thursday. I didn't know we had elections on Thursdays. I guess we don't want to encourage people to show up in Montana, where we have Quist running, really good guy. He's a guitar player, musician, Rob Quist, running against a millionaire, John Forte, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, but that actually shows the difference. Here we got a guy who's, you know, well-known musician, decent guy.
Genuine progressive.
Genuine progressive. He's running on things like Medicare for all, save the public lands. Imagine that. Save the public lands of Montana. He runs on things like the glaciers here are melting. You know, we need to, like, look around us.
Yeah, Glacier National Park is in Montana, isn't it?
Yeah,
Where the glacier's like almost gone?
It's melting, yeah. Well, it'll be there, at least for my lifetime. Not sure about my kids, but, yeah, it's melting. Every year you see the melt. And he's, you know, running on that kind of stuff. But, you know, also, you know, wears a cowboy hat. He's always worn a cowboy hat. It's not a new idea.
Yeah.
We think he has a good chance.
You know, Will Rogers wore a cowboy hat.
Yeah. Jim Hightower, my good friend.
Of course. You know.
Once in a while, I've seen Hightower without that. Not often.
I think he sleeps in it.
I think he either sleeps near it or in it.
Yeah. So we got Quist in Montana. There's another big race in Kansas taking our country back, and that election is happening today. People, if you're listening in Kansas and you haven't voted yet, there's still time.
If you're down there in Wichita. Because I think they have 4, I'm not sure about this, 3 or 4 congressional districts. But it's definitely Wichita, which used to be, you know, big manufacturing hub.
Well, it's where the Kochs, at least one of the Kochs lives there. Doesn't Charles Koch live there?
Yeah, somewhere around there, yeah.
And Koch Industries is
definitely
headquartered there.
Yeah, they're definitely in that district.
So this is like, you know, this is like taking the revolution to the czar.
Yeah, that's a tougher one to win, you know, based on everything I know, but we'd love to be surprised. Montana, quite winnable. the guy next week who's not one of our candidates. So we have endorsed Thompson as well as Quist. In Atlanta, Jonathan Ossoff, who's running. There's about 15 people running.
He's running for Tom Price's seat.
Correct.
The guy who replaced Newt Gingrich, where I used to live in Marietta. So Gingrich.
Is that in that district?
Yes, yeah. Gingrich was my congressman. And back in the 80s, much to my chagrin. But anyway, pardon my interrupting.
No, go ahead. So, he is, so that's if anybody gets 50%, they're the congressperson. Otherwise, it's like a primary, except the parties don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
So the top two would run off. And I'd say he has an excellent chance to be number one, actually, in this case, because most of the people running are Republicans. There's like 12 Republicans.
Mm.
And I would bet Jonathan comes in first. He's more of a traditional Georgia Democrat. It's not to say it's bad, but, we're not heavily involved in that one. There's no endorsement, but,
hey, a Democrat is a Democrat. I mean,
I'm sure all our folks are voting for him down there.
Yeah, the most important vote any member of Congress makes is the first day when they vote for leadership.
There you go.
Basically, we're either a majority.
Which side
or
are you on? They ask on the first day.
Right, exactly. We're either a majority or we're not. So this is great stuff. Our revolution itself. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. So the main thing we're doing is not electoral, although there's a lot of, I think right now, in special election type things, like the mayor of Omaha, which comes on, I think, May 9th. Chris Mello is running. He came in second in the primary. It's a similar kind of election, top two runoff. He has a decent chance to win. Bernie's headed there one of the days next week to campaign for him. Bernie will also be there for Rob Quist in Montana.
That's great.
I'm not sure which day next week these things are. I forgot. He starts off Monday in Maine. But lots of candidates, 20 of them. Christine Pellegrino is a good one, trying to pick up a seat in Long Island in New York. There's big issues there with how the Democratic Party functions in New York. Sadly, with the backing of the governor, 8 Democrats in the Senate caucus with the Republicans.
Right.
So even in an overwhelmingly so-called Democratic state, we can't pass anything that really matters unless the governor's for it. And so there was some good news, like free higher education. He's backing a version of that. So that likely gets through. But if we, the people, push for some change, and he's not on it, these 8 Democrats stop it with the Republicans.
So this Long Island seat is a state seat. This is for the state legislature in New York.
Yeah.
So that's
more what we do.
You guys are working at the level of the mayors and the state legislators.
We're much better at that.
And that's the most important stuff. I mean, it's not sexy. It's not the big, splash, but I mean, literally, this is the stuff that after the Powell memo came out in the mid '70s, the Republicans got together and they said, okay, we're going to start building this party literally at the precinct level, all across the country, and poured hundreds of millions, billions probably of dollars in the 1980s.
Sure.
And with the think tanks, the Heritage Foundation, and Cato, and all this kind of stuff. ALEC, ALEC is a great example. So the work that you're doing, I mean, that's
we're much better at that. So Quest, it's a relatively small district. Well, it's the whole state of Montana. It's not small geographically, but if we can mobilize our 20,000 or so people in Montana, and they volunteer and they make phone calls. But you're right. So in general, we're much more focused on further down, including run for precinct captain in the Democratic Party. We do that. We're doing that state by state all over. That's what helped Barbuto win in Wyoming, the new party chair. That's a level where we absolutely make a difference. There's not any money involved. So where big money is involved, we're not going to do as well. We can raise small donors, but it's not going to compare, frankly. Bernie's an exception in that way himself. But in addition to electoral work, the main thing we really want to do is support these groups. And the groups, some of them are small. They have to have at least 10 members. A member is anybody who shows up at a meeting or gives $1. We don't have any dues. Once a year they have to show up. That's it. That's a member. But the groups are the main thing to us because we want to support people on issues, on changing the party, or even starting their own little political group if they can run as independents. We want to be there for candidates. Ballot measures are a really big deal. In most states, the minimum wage got raised through ballot measures, not the governor and the state legislature. Big shock there. I mean, I don't know of a single place where it was turned down, increasing the minimum wage, even last year. Places like South Dakota.
Even Republican states.
Yeah, like South Dakota. Yeah. So our folks are very excited about, ballot measures, candidates, changing the party, but issues really drive us all, like healthcare, like sanctuary cities, the issues that really get us in the gutter,
Social
in the
Security.
heart. Yeah. Yeah. Expanding, not just defending things like Medicare.
Yeah. This is. I had a caller earlier who asked, how does social change happen, essentially?
Yeah.
And I pointed out the J-curve theory of social revolution, that it's not how bad things are, because things are terrible in lots of places around the world and people don't revolt,
In lots of ways.
or they don't change, things. But it's when expectations diverge from reality by a certain percentage. At that point, then revolution becomes possible, whether it's just a cultural revolution like accepting gay marriage, or whether it's an actual political revolution, like the Reagan Revolution, arguably.
Yeah.
And that what we need to be doing is raising the expectation bar.
That's right.
Make Americans begin to expect that, we can be like the rest of the developed world. We can have health care for all. We can have free public education all the way to PhD or MD for all. We can have trade schools that actually work for people. We can bring jobs back home. We can do this stuff. We're not the village idiots. We've just been suckered by a bunch of billionaires who've sucked $17 trillion from the middle class since 1980.
So yeah, and I think that, so I would sign on to all that. Perfect. When we running a Hartman is what I went to say. No, seriously, I think that was perfect. I do think it's raising expectations, and also that there's a strategy and a way to get that done.
Yeah.
And that it's not just that we agree on a bunch of ideas. Okay, where's the path? Despite we just had a $7 billion election, how do you and I and regular folks that are listening, how do we get involved in the face of all that? How do we get involved when a third of the citizens of this country are not registered? Registration looks like a mess. And more importantly, 20 million immigrants don't have any path to registration.
Right.
We were talking earlier about, your family coming from Norway. How do we recreate a sense of an American dream?
Big work to do. Hang on just a second.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
It's Larry Cohen, and the website is ourrevolution.com, and you can tweet him at ourrevolution. Larry, thank you.
Okay, always a pleasure.
Great having you with us. Thank you.